In 2002, one of the most beloved child stars in Hollywood history walked away from acting forever. He vanished for nearly 20 years. Hollywood forgot his name. Casting directors wouldn't return his calls. And then, in 2022, he did something nobody thought possible. He didn't just come back. He won an Oscar. In 1984, a 12-year-old Vietnamese refugee named Ke Huy Quan landed the role of a lifetime. Steven Spielberg cast him as Short Round in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and audiences fell in love with him instantly. He was funny, brave, and had a chemistry with Harrison Ford that felt effortless. 1 year later, in 1985, he became Data in The Goonies, one of the most iconic adventure films of the decade. By age 13, Ke Huy Quan was a household name. He had worked with Spielberg. He had starred in a cultural phenomenon. The future seemed limitless. But here's the thing nobody tells you about being a child star. Hollywood has a very short memory, and for Asian actors in the 1980s and 90s, that memory was even shorter. As Ke Huy Quan grew older, the roles dried up. Casting directors stopped calling. The industry that had embraced him as a cute kid had no idea what to do with him as a young adult. He auditioned constantly. He was rejected constantly. In his own words, "I was happy working behind the camera, but I had serious FOMO. I wanted to be up there with my fellow Asian actors." But the reality was brutal. There simply weren't roles for Asian men in Hollywood. The industry wasn't interested. So in 2002, Ke Huy Quan made a devastating decision. He quit acting. He didn't announce it. There was no press release. He just stopped. He walked away from the only dream he'd ever had. For the next 20 years, he disappeared into the background of Hollywood. He became an assistant director, a stunt coordinator. He worked on films like X-Men and The One, always behind the camera, never in front of it. He watched from the shadows as his peers rose to fame. He watched as Hollywood slowly, painfully began to change, and he told himself he was fine with it. But he wasn't. In 2018, Ke Huy Quan sat in a movie theater and watched Crazy Rich Asians, and something inside him cracked. For the first time, he saw a major Hollywood film with an all-Asian cast. He saw Asian actors being celebrated, not stereotyped. He saw a world that had finally, maybe, made room for people like him. This time, Hollywood was listening. In 2021, Ke Huy Quan got a call that would change everything. The directors Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert, known as the Daniels, were making a film called Everything Everywhere All at Once, and they wanted him to play Waymond Wang, a gentle, loving husband who becomes an unlikely action hero across multiple universes. Ke Huy Quan poured 20 years of pain, hope, and longing into that role. Every scene was a testament to what he'd lost, and what he'd refused to let go of. And when the film premiered in 2022, the world finally saw what Hollywood had missed. Critics called his performance heartbreaking, transcendent, and the soul of the film. At the 95th Academy Awards in March 2023, Ke Huy Quan stood on stage, tears streaming down his face, and accepted the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. He looked at the audience and said, "My journey started on a boat. I spent a year in a refugee camp, and somehow I ended up here on Hollywood's biggest stage."
Ke Huy Quan's story isn't just about acting. It's about refusing to let the world define your expiration date. It's about the 20 years he spent in the dark, still believing, even when nobody else did. And it's about what happens when you finally get a second chance, and you refuse to waste it. Today, Ke Huy Quan is back. He starred in Loki, Zootopia 2, and has more projects lined up than he ever did as a child star. But the most powerful thing about his comeback? It wasn't luck. It wasn't timing. It was a man who walked away, spent 2 decades building a life without the thing he loved most, and then found the courage to try again. Because some dreams don't die. They just wait.